Hello, my friends. This is Rick, and this is your seat at the table. This is another installment from Middle Earth Role Playing, or from Iron Crown Enterprises back in the day, circa late 80s, early 90s. It is the Tower of Cirith Ungol and Shelob's Lair. J.R.R. Tolkien's Middle Earth. Now, what makes this particular module, this module, not the, my particular module, special from my perspective, is this is actually one of the very first secondhand modules I purchased. I'd already been well into buying Middle Earth, but for whatever reason, this wasn't available at the time. Something to keep in mind. Back in the day, they had limited runs on a lot of things. They produced X amount of product, and when that product was sold and gone, that was that. Unless they were very popular and warranted a second or third run on the printing side of things, generally speaking, your local game store got X amount of copies, and when they were gone, they were gone. The only options you had on the table was maybe if you're good with the owner of the place, he could order you one, or you could order one from the company producing them, or from Iron Crown Enterprises, of course, which is one of the reasons they included the stuff here in the back and potential, sometimes in the back of the pages. So we didn't have the internet. Didn't have the luxury of going online to some place like Amazon or and ordering one. This is copyright 1984, so this would have been, I would have been 17, and this would have been the year before I graduated high school, and first run, first come. And by the time I started buying Merp, this had already come and gone. For whatever reason, Ivor didn't get very many copies, I don't think, and there was a certain percentage of these games of the very first set, and then the company, they sold enough that the I.C.E. was convinced that the people who owned Rollmaster, stuff like that, was convinced they were still making some money, so they continued expanding the Merp line, but they didn't necessarily go back and make reprints of these things. So I told that to Ivor because I was looking at what I had at the time, and I kept seeing this cropping up, in some of the back stuff, and I said, hey. And he says, well, he goes to conventions on weekends in the Midwest on a regular basis. He did at the time, and set up in the vendor's room so he could make some money. And one of those reasons, alternate reasons, was it allowed him to connect with other store owners and other vendors and potentially keep an eye out for things like this. So he knew I was looking for it, and to be honest, I don't think I asked him for it, but he knew I wanted it, so he got it and then sold it to me, and we were both happy with it. And the reason you can look, it says somebody's written 6 set of adventures, average encounter level is encounter 8th level, levels 1 through 7 plus. So whoever previously had it doodled on it, made some notes. This is the condition when I got it, and I've been very lucky and fortunate that it has not gone further. Back in the day, I would have most likely run tape up it, and a reason I started learning not to do that because the tape fades and yellows and actually expedites the damage done to the bindings. So some of these, they're not really intended for a lifelong use. Isn't that an ironic thing? We don't think about that, and we don't take that into account. It's like the paperback. Paperback books today are quite common. They are the more common and more in demand than hardbacks. The hardbacks are considered shelf pieces. They're more about, or for like a library, for durable use, but they're also more for appearance's sake. The majority of people, it's just, I can buy 2 or 3 novels for the price of a good hardback, or 2 novels for the price of a good hardback of the same thing. And I think most of you know that same feeling. But if you know your history of paperbacks, go back, and they actually used to call them pocket books. And one of the reasons they were called that was because they were intended for you to purchase and shove in the back pocket. You could stuff them in your pocket. They were just the right size for your pocket, and they weren't intended for long term. So you would buy them at a grocery store, or you would buy them at a gas station, or you would buy them while you're waiting to get on a plane or on a train. And the idea was you would spend your time reading the book, and then when you were done, you'd chuck it in the trash. The idea that we would still have hordes and hordes of books, and I'm guilty of this. You've seen some of my videos and some of my pictures. I have loads of paperback novels based off of these game systems. My current run of tabletop. The current set of books that I have sitting on my nightstand next to my bed that I read a few pages every night are based off of Dune, and working my way through them, and in no particular good order, right? I'm actually not sure what order this one's in. I'm working on House Atreides at the moment, and there was a different House Harkonnen I read before that, which was smaller, and then it was House Carino. Anyway, I think I'm reading them backwards right now, but I got a really good deal at these things. Now this one I got for $6.99 at, you see $6.99 or not? Can you? Huh? Anyway, I got it at JCD Hobby here a while back when the wife and I was out running around. Anyway, so Shelob's Lair. As I said in a previous module I just did, they call them adventure modules, but they're mini source books because they contain some valuable information on a regional location whenever possible. I just did this one. I said the same thing applies here. This is why I said this was the norm for these things and not the exception. We have a few exceptions, which I disappointed. And I did a video not too long ago on one, the Miles of the Intwash or something like that, and it's just patiently. That's just exactly what it is, an adventure module with very, very little valuable information for the region. So this particular one gives us a little bit more in-depth information on Minas Ithil, the regions around Minas Ithil, specifically Cirith Ungol and Shelob herself and her lair. But we also have, like I said, we got all the conversions and stuff to convert to any game system you potentially would want to use the rules from to utilize the module. And we have the introduction and background, the physical geography of the land, the climate, roads and passes, plants and animals, flora and fauna, as I'm fond to call them, the politics and power, the history. The tale of Cirith Ungol begins in the dark years of the Second Age. Kingdom of the people, the kingdom on Gondor, the free peoples, its government, military forces for Minas Ithil, Shelob, the horror in Cirith Ungol. So we're talking about the past and the areas around Minas Ithil, and they touched on Minas Ithil a little bit in this one because you might have wanted to utilize it in your campaign. It's much later that they actually come out with a cities hardbook version or campaign source book for Minas Ithil in the area, and they basically rehash a lot of this. So, apple cider in the fall is good stuff. I won't drink apple cider during the rest of the year. Just this kind of this time of year until the holidays, and then that would be that. Fun fact about the Fat Man, you may or may not want to know. Don't care. I was a young man. I actually worked at an apple orchard in the fall while I was going to high school for 3 years in a row to press this stuff. And I see, when they talk apple cider is just exactly what it is. It's pure squeezins. You take the apple product, put it into a grinder. The grinder chews it up. It gets put into in this place, it was put into a burlap sack bag form with a piece of wood you stuck on top that had like lathing on it. You'd stack 3 or 4 of them high, and then you put it under this hydraulic press. The hydraulic press was actually made out of a part of a hydraulic ram from an old tractor. Pull the lever down, it squeezed, everything runs down a trough into a big crock pot that had cheesecloth on it on 2 separate places to help, filter material out, and you bottled it up. Nothing else. Nothing added, no sugars, no preservatives, no nothing. Just squeezed into the jug. And where apple juice, on the other hand, if you look at apple juice, is an apple derivative flavored drink product with loads of other stuff, including sugar. So, and extra water. We didn't add water either. What you got was pure, unadulterated, pressed apple. Now, why I'm saying that is because these are not the apples that you generally sell to the public. They're not as pretty. They're not necessarily pristine. And if they've been sitting in there for a while, because they just get loaded into huge bins and stick in a cool, dry place until you press them. And that's how it runs. The apple cider runs. It's a seasonal drink, and it runs until it runs out. And that basically means they keep pressing until the apples run out. And when the apples run out, some of them have been sitting there for a while. So it took me decades before I reacquired the taste for drinking this stuff. Just letting you know, a little shot of vodka or something that will change all that. Anyway. So, physical overview, overland travel, getting around the area of Cirith Ungol, minus Ithel, the tower itself. It says here, Gondor's masons built the tower principally from a dark, dense basalt quarried in the Ephel Duath. Stone is so finely cut and polished and fitted, afforded virtually no handhold to anyone attempting to climb the outer surface. It also gives it that kind of funky look. It's a dark and you'd almost like the towers of teeth. You'd look at them in the movies, in the descriptions in the novels. You would actually find it hard to believe it was the Gondorians that actually built these things, and not the horses of the Dark Lord just by their looks. Shelob's Lair, the Cirith Ungol. Overview of Minas Ithil itself. So, like I said, here's a basis for the city. A fortified metropolis centered on one of Gondor's three great towers. It's a natural base for adventuring in the Cirith Ungol region. The city offers many opportunities for adventure. See, that's another thing. What we see in the book, or we visualize in the book from reading, and what we see in the movie is a very, very narrow location. We see the bridge, we see the winding tower, or the winding stair looking down over the ghostly city. We see the ghostly city main gates, we see the bridge. What we don't realize or don't really see is that it's a very large region and area. The pass goes way into the mountains. It actually does enter into Mordor through the back end. This is why the tower is there, to help protect and to watch over it mostly, and then to watch the back gate, so to speak, the upper pass that this thing squats on. The city itself sits in a vale surrounded by very steep mountains, but there's still other stuff beyond the city. There's also Ithel, the region of Ithel, and that's before you get to Minas Ithil, but we don't see a whole lot of that. So there's a lot more going on there, and depending on what time era you are, it's either when the Gondor was in its full power, there was lots of small towns and villages and farmsteads scattered along in the vale itself and in areas leading into the vale, and then there would have been other stuff. And then, of course, afterwards, Aragorn orders the field set fire to, the city's barricaded and eventually tore down, and everybody's banned from going there because of the evil inhabited. Over the royal authority in Minas Ithil, goods of every sort, only coins of Gondorian, garrison of the towers, military structure, the Tale of Princes, prices and maintenance costs for Minas Ithil. So if you want a woodsman axe, would cost you 5 silver, a bastard sword is 30 silver, a mace would be 9 silver. A spear would be 35 bronze pieces. If you want to get a donkey or mule, it's 80 silver. A light meal would be a copper. A heavy meal, 3 copper. A week's rations, 4 bronze pieces. Lodging in a shared suite is 4 copper. Accessories, you need a good pair of boots, it's 2 silver. A pair of pants is 1 silver. Flint and steel is 2 bronze. A flask of oil is 6 bronze. A 10-foot pole. The 10-foot pole is the 10-foot pole. There's 6 bronze pieces. 6 bronze pieces. 6. And 6. Come on, you're doing something. 6 bronze pieces for a freaking piece of wood pole that's 10 foot long. Right? Come on. All right, smack your. Go out and cut one off of a really nice sapling. It's whatever. Prominent individuals of the tower, captain of the tower, the armorer of the tower, the tin of the tower, The Mage of the Tower, that's this gal. She's a half-elven. Here's a side note. It's interesting. In Lord of the Rings, in Middle-earth, unlike most fantasy role-playing games where elves are abound and player characters can be elves, and half-elves are quite common, although various stigmas are placed on them depending on how deep you want to play your game. In Middle-earth, in J.R.R. Tolkien's world, while you can play an elvish character, it's actually frowned on. They kind of don't want you doing that because a human really can't play an elvish character properly because they have them act and you'd have to be a very young elf because you just don't have the vibe or the mindset, that long view of elves in general. And this is why elves generally don't hang out with the humans. It's rare. It's not common. Now, when they make a good point here for her character, but it's a good point. And generally speaking, the majority of half-elves that you're going to encounter or elves are going to be wood elves or sylvan elves, very crude elves by elvish standing, not the Noldor. And it actually goes to the point. Right here it says, although unions between men and high elven Noldor are so rare to be legendary, it is in certain sheltered parts of Middle-earth is not unknown for extraordinary men, to wit, Sindren or Sylvan elves. Kalaim, half-elven, hailing from Belfalis and Bondor, is an offspring of such a rare union. Her father was a Dunedain noble, her mother a grey elf from Eldahlon. Kalaim's mother tutored her in magic arts, etc., etc. Eventually, her father died in the Great Plague, and her mother was so distraught that she went to the Undying Lands and basically left Middle-earth behind. So her daughter remained behind and chose to take on a mortal life, which means she's going to live a long life. So in some aspects, if you look at in like Dungeons and Dragons, where they give elves a very long life, but they're mortal. And the twist to how that would work here, they just did that for simplicity's sake. I mean, just be truthful. I just did that for simplicity's sake. In the Middle-earth, so they carried it over through MERP, is that all elves are immortal unless they choose not to be. And if they choose not to be, then at some point they've severed that tie to their immortal heritage, and they begin to age and grow old and eventually die. And it's not known whether they die as a human and go to the Holomandos as a human with the human fate, or if they go to the Holomandos as a sundered elf who will probably never be reunited with their physical form, or their physical form, and remain a spirit. So it's a question. And in this case, it's a good lesson that if you're going to play a Middle-earth campaign and you want a character that's an elf, that elf's probably going to be a wood elf, a Sylvan elf, a Sindon elf, one of the elves who never went to the Undying Lands, their ancestors are tied to Middle-earth, and if you're a half-elf, it's going to be through that lineage, as opposed to the Noldor, which is, the Vanir, never going to happen. Because the Vanir, like the Noldor, if there is any kind of union, they're very historically speaking, something important. You're not going to have a bunch of Elrons running around the world, or Elros. It's very limited. That's why when they talk about the wedding of Aragorn and Arwen, it's the third of three in that lineage, which makes it very extremely rare and extremely special for a reason. So as a character perspective, something, we don't take it into account, and maybe that's too chunky and too deep for some people, but that's a philosophy that I take for playing elves in Middle-earth. It's like playing wizards in Middle-earth. Magic in Middle-earth is very subtle. It's not flash and bang. It's not powered the same way that you would see it in your traditional fantasy and high sorcery game. That way, so we don't have 100 wizards running around Gondor. True wizards, there's only a handful, 4 or 5. Human tricksters and conjurers, as Sir Hermione likes to call them. These are humans that have the ability to cast magic. They're rare, and most of their magic's low grade. It just is. They're not very powerful because they don't have the ability to become very powerful. They don't have the history. The world does not have the legacy of magic that Faerun does, or Avatar has. Just saying, Avatar. Keep that. So we keep that in mind if we're actually playing in a Middle-earth campaign. It's just like magic from the Dwarven perspective. It's about crafting. Majority of their magic goes into physical items that make them very potent. like artifacts. They themselves don't go flying in and around. Shamanic magic is very weak, very limited, and very rare, mostly for healing purposes, and it's more about knowledge and a little bit of magic, but mostly knowledge. Elves, you don't see high powerful elvish, wizards or freaking mega wizard, Damn it, I know what they're called. It's just slipping my freaking brain at the moment, because that's just not the flavor of the Middle Earth world. So whenever I play in Middle Earth and I have characters and players that bring that crossover, I emphasize that stuff heavily. You're not going to be your traditional D&D style wizard in Middle Earth. They're rare and they're not powerful. You actually can limit them to certain levels of advancement and certain spells. I prefer they use the magic that's imbued from MERP for MERP, even if they're using these mechanics to run a character using D&D mechanics. The magic's going to still be driven by the mechanics from MERP and the limits that are placed on their abilities. All right, so then we got some orc tribes in the neighborhood. The tower itself, so we got breakdown of the different levels and what you can find in it. All right, here's that catalog I was talking about, trying to get a hold of something. Sometimes this was the only way, was to write to the company and see if you could get one. More schematics and the caves underneath. Adventure, the bounty hunt. A low already made it first to fourth level adventure sufficient, at least 5 or 6. If you're a party, the higher level they need to be. Basically, they're going to go hunt down orcs. You get paid a bounty for the orcs. Rescue someone from the tower. Shelob's Lair. Mid-level, second and 7th level party and neutral evil characters. Layouts of the tower should be fairly easy to obtain. Blah blah. Assault on Shelob's Lair. They emphasize this part. You can go to Shelob's Lair. You can mess with the giant spider, but you can't kill her. You can wound her, you can drive her off, you can't capture her, you can't kill her, because she serves a very vital role in the future story. Now, if this takes place after, the 4th age, so be it. The characters can become famous for killing the giant spider of the mountains. The Tower of Cirith Ungol at other times. Various places, tower after the fall of Sauron, 4th age adventure. This one here is, I don't know, early third age. Various locations, critters, enhanced potent substances, specific repairs, poisons and rotten things. There is a breakdown of Cirith Ungol, overview, the various stairs and pathways in the tunnel to get to it. You'll see the veil. When you look at the picture, like the map, you see, like I said, it's quite big. The city itself is roughly 1,000 foot elevation and pretty good damn size. And then you've got all the areas out here that are adjacent to it, and then this pass that goes all the way through. So there's a lot going potentially. So, all right, there you go. Shelob's Lair.